Vinland Saga is an exceptional action anime that doesn't just grab your attention with intense battles, but also with the deeply moving narrative of loss, brokenness, and personal transformation. Spanning two incredible seasons, it tells the story of Thorfinn, who, despite his dark past filled with bloodshed, illustrates the profound importance of self-forgiveness. Even though his past mistakes involved the small, totally forgettable misstep of reducing the local population, Thorfinn teaches us that shaping a meaningful future is what truly matters. But today we are not diving into Thorfinn's journey. Instead, let's talk about a character who, despite being often overlooked, has one of the most fascinating arcs in the series, Olmar. He's a character that appears throughout the second season of the anime, and he's one of the most fascinating characters. His story is a tale of cowardness turning into courage, stupidity turning into wisdom, and arrogance turning into true self-confidence. Olmar is the son of Ketil, the owner of the rich farm. And he also has an older brother, Thorgil, who is his complete opposite, a huge, experienced and brutal warrior blinded by his desire to fight. From the beginning of the series, Olmar dreams of becoming a great warrior. He wants to gain fame and recognition, but he lacks both courage and skill. And this is where his inner conflict begins. Olmar wants to be a warrior who succeeds on the battlefield, but at the same time he is terrified by the reality of war. The brutality and chaos of battle overwhelm him, which is clearly visible in the behavior whenever he gets close to danger. Although he dreams of great deeds, deep down he is afraid of what these dreams may really mean. As the season progresses, we see Olmar gradually confront his own fears and begin to understand that war is not only about glory, but also about brutality and death. His development is a slow process, in which he learns that true courage is not about blindly going into battle, but about being able to face your weaknesses and accept yourself. His relationship with his family does not help him develop as a person. The lack of recognition from his father makes Olmar feel lost and desperate, wanting to prove himself. This desire often leads him to make reckless decisions that only deepen his frustration. Olmar's relationship with his brother Thorgil is even more complicated. Thorgil despises weakness, yet he cares about Olmar to some extent, although cares may be too strong of a word. Thorgil would like Olmar to become stronger, which is why he often consciously or unconsciously imposes his will on him. And Olmar, too weak to oppose this, gives into his brother's pressure, which only intensifies his inner conflict. Olmar begins his journey as a naive and insecure young man. His desire to be a warrior is the result of the pressure he feels from his father and brother. He often tries to impress others, which usually ends in one big failure. However, there is a moment when Olmar dealt a fatal blow. He is forced to act by his brother. In desperation and fear, he does what was expected of him, but it's not what Olmar imagined. Instead of feeling pride, his character experiences shock and disorientation. What was supposed to be a moment of triumph turns out to be an experience that destroys him from the inside. He realizes that the pain and suffering that being a warrior like his brother brings is not worth it. The most important events that slowly shape Olmar's character are his meetings with Thorfinn. Thorfinn is quiet, modest, and does not look like a typical warrior. But over time, as Olmar begins to see the depth of Thorfinn and his skills, his attitude towards him begins to change. The moments in which Thorfinn shows extraordinary inner and moral strength in the face of difficult situations becomes especially important. When Olmar sees Thorfinn in action, he begins to understand that true strength does not lie in the brutality or the number of enemies defeated, but in the ability to avoid violence and resolve conflict peacefully. Although Thorfinn does not try to directly influence Olmar, his attitude and way of thinking naturally change the younger hero's perspective. Under Thorfinn's influence, Olmar begins to undergo a transformation. He begins to understand that true courage is about admitting one's weaknesses and trying to fix one's mistakes, not blindly following violence. He stops idealizing a warrior as someone who only fights and kills, and begins to see the value in being someone who strives for peace and tries to protect others. The most important scene of Olmar's transformation comes when he finally gathers the courage to refuse his brother further participation in the bloodshed. As Ketil's successor, Olmar decides to surrender. Not out of cowardice, but out of the deep desire to end the senseless violence. Olmar is scared, he fears for his own life, but he understands that life of others, both his own people and those on the other side, are equally valuable. And his brother Thorgil initially reacts to this decision with anger, constantly trying to talk his younger brother into attacking. Thorgil, raised in a brutal world where strength is the only currency that counts, sees surrender as betrayal and weakness. In his eyes, the entire war is Olmar's fault, and he must now take responsibility and fight like a true warrior. And at this crucial moment, when Thorgil and Olmar face each other, a symbolic clash of two worlds occurs. Thorgil, dressed in red, brings to mind bloodlust, brutality and anger, traits that have always defined his character. Red also symbolizes the past dominated by the violence and conflicts that shaped Thorgil. Olmar, dressed in blue clothes, becomes the embodiment of inner peace, self-understanding and full awareness of his decisions. It is not coincidence that Olmar chooses peace over violence. His decision shows that he has found the courage to oppose the role imposed on him by others. When Olmar refuses to continue the war, the two people in the room immediately realize that Olmar is no longer the same boy. He becomes a man who decides on what terms his life will be. Olmar finally chooses his own path, although it is more difficult, the path of peace, understanding and responsibility for the future. His attitude transforms into a quiet but powerful manifestation that true strength does not lie in brutality, but in ability to set boundaries and be true to one's values. At this point, Olmar gains more than respect. He gains freedom that he could not have imagined before. I haven't read the manga, so I assume his story ends with this season. It shows a wonderful transformation from a boy who is afraid of losing his pride to a man who knows what he wants. And all of this makes Olmar one of my favorite anime characters. If you have thoughts on the series or interpret things differently, please leave a comment. I'm very curious about how you see different characters. Maybe there will be something I didn't notice, or you will look at certain aspects of the story differently. What I like most about such discussions is the diversity of opinions and how much can we discover thanks to different perspectives. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps reach more anime fans who can enjoy such analysis. Thank you for watching and see you soon.